Probably the best we gonna have to do right quick. All right. What's happening? It's your boy, this your motherfucking boy King Known Uncensored, baby. We back again. We talking that NBA trade deadline talk. Why not, man? So, I know y'all heard the recent reports of, James Harden being included in a trade. So the reason why Harden hasn't played in a couple of days, they cited his absence due to personal reasons. I thought somebody passed in his family, but what had seemed to happen was he's discussing a way out of Los Angeles. And the main trade that's being discussed is Darius Garland for James Harden. Now, obviously, we know the Cavs are going to want more than just Harden. The Cavs are going to want first-round picks with an S. I don't think that Harden and a first-round pick for Garland is going to do it for Cleveland. Cleveland has been wheeling and dealing. They out here getting it. They just acquired Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. So, and then they cleared out $50 million in cap space. Why did they do that for? Well, it's just because now they're going after James Harden or maybe somebody else. Maybe these talks don't go like they're supposed to, and maybe Harden goes somewhere else. Where would y'all like to see him? Me, I don't know. I would have to go through. I always had a gut feeling that James Harden would be in Atlanta. Obviously, Trae Young, already been traded. Because I expected Harden to get traded for Trae about 2.5 months ago before the Clippers went on that streak. But I thought after the Clippers went on a streak, I would have thought that this team would have stayed together. But guess not. I guess that's not how it was meant to go. Maybe Harden had been planning this exit for a while. Honestly, regardless of who gets Harden, they're not going to win a championship. Sorry. It's just not going to happen. If they do win a championship, Harden's got to be the third or the fourth best player. He can't be the first or second best player because in big games, he's shown to come up short. Especially in like game 6s, game 7s. And dude is just simply allergic to close out games for some reason. He's had difficulties closing out series. So you have to think about that when you're trying to acquire him. But like I said, a team like Atlanta could use him because I can see like they need a scorer. You know what I'm saying? They need like a number one option over there. And Harden would have to be that because Jalen Johnson, I'm not sure if he's ready to be a number one option quite yet. He's more like a number two option. Playing a number one option currently. Because I feel like if Harden goes over there to Atlanta, they can give up various pieces. Or you could just do a Porzingis for Harden swap and put him in the front court with Zubac. Or they could do some 3-team shit with the Cavs and the Hawks and move Harden to Atlanta, Porzingis to Cleveland, Jarrett Allen and Darius Garland in LA. You could do something like that. I don't think it will work, but I'm just thinking about matching salaries and shit. I don't have the trade machine on me. But Harden becoming the second biggest name at the trade deadline is something that I expected eventually. I knew since I put out mock trades 1.0 that Harden was going to get traded. I did many mock trades. I had a trade of Harden going to Cleveland on one of them. I just don't remember which one it was, because Garland was a hot name, and I felt like Garland's injury history was going to come back. I felt like the injury history of Garland in his toe was going to come back, and then Cleveland was just going to end up trading him. Because now that they acquired Schroeder and Ellis, they can basically go after any guard, especially with $50 million. It's not $50 million in cap space, but clearing off $50 million in salary and taxes does create a spot, especially when you have big contracts like Allen's, like Mobley's, like Mitchell's, like Garland's. And Garland, unfortunately, is the odd man out. Allen could be collateral used in a different deal as well. There's a lot of possibilities that could come out this Darius Garland and James Harden deal. It's just all about whether you want to swap them for each other or add a little bit more to the pie as far as other teams and other players to make the salaries match and work. I mean, okay, if y'all want to locate my mock trades, 1.0 through 3.0, 2026 mock trades, 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 are located in my playlist. You know what I'm saying? Maybe one of these deals might fuck around and happen, because I had a Trae Young mock to Washington. That was the only one that seemed to have been the closest to coming to fruition. I had a Trae Young, CJ McCollum deal, but I didn't know it was just going to be them two and Corey Kispert. I had thought a little bit more was going to be involved. But who knew? Now, as far as the man of the hour, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the latest that I heard was obviously Golden State. Golden State has made it clear that they don't plan on trading Jimmy Butler. So next year they're trying to form a big three with Steph, Jimmy, and Giannis. So you know what that means. And you know who could get traded. It's Draymond. Draymond Green, from what I hear, got the word that if they try to get Giannis, he's on the block. Draymond could go in the media and deny it all he wants. You know what I'm saying? Draymond could deny being on the trade block as much as he wants to be. But if the Warriors got a chance to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo, they'll trade everybody there except Steph and Jimmy Butler. They will do that shit. Because what's being discussed amongst Milwaukee and Golden State is Golden State told Milwaukee that they're willing to give up all of their first round picks. All of the first round picks that they possess, they're willing to give up to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, and a combination of young players, which would probably be Podziemski, Moody, maybe even Hield, even though he's not young. Guy Santos, Trace Jackson Davis. Jonathan Kuminga. You know what I mean? That could be involved. Yeah, man. I think Kuminga's going to be the main piece in that trade if Golden State's able to work through it, because Kuminga definitely makes 24, 25 million, close around that range. Podziemski's like 10, 11 million. Post is like 2 million. I don't know how much Guy Santos makes. I assume he makes the veterans minimum, maybe about 2, 3 million. Golden State does have youth that they can trade, like the Kumingas and the Pods and the Moody's. Those three guys would be the key pieces in that deal. But gut feeling tells me that there'll be a third team to solicit expiring contracts and picks. And I think that team should be Chicago. I think Chicago, Golden State, and Milwaukee can make a deal by Chicago sending a couple of their first. You know, obviously Golden State is sending 2 or 3 first-round picks, maybe more if the third team doesn't get involved. But the Bulls have the most expiring contracts. I think the Warriors could clean up off of a Giannis Antetokounmpo deal. You know, say, for example, you include, I don't know, Vucevic and Antetokounmpo, have the Warriors acquire them. You swap out pretty much damn near everybody but Jimmy and Steph. Get rid of everybody else. You get rid of Pods. You get rid of, Quentin Post. You get rid of Moody. You get rid of Kuminga. You get rid of Buddy Hield. You get rid of Trace Jackson Davis. And on one side, Chicago could provide the expiring contracts of Nikola Vucevic, of Kobe White, of Zach Collins, of and various other Bulls players. Kevin Huerter's on an expiring deal as well. So some of those guys could end up going to Milwaukee, and some of those guys could end up going to Golden State, depending on how the salaries match, of course. I would say that Vucevic and Antetokounmpo would be the two guys going to Golden State. And then the Bulls could send multiple contracts to the Warriors and the Bucks, because the Bucks obviously were getting rid of $54.1 million in Giannis's contract. And maybe the Bucks pony up some players. I don't know. I could do like a quick mock trade involving that. Maybe. We could talk about it. Then another team that's interested in Giannis Antetokounmpo is the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are willing to offer Kel'el Ware, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier's contract, and 3 to 5 first-round picks, just straight up like that. I think the Heat possibly may be the best deal for Milwaukee's future, because Milwaukee's been wanting Tyler Hero for about almost a year. I've heard many Tyler Hero to the Bucks rumors, as far as helping Giannis, but the Bucks have always been interested in adding Tyler Hero to that team. Then you're bringing Kel'el Ware, Terry Rozier over there along with picks. I'm not saying that Milwaukee could make the playoffs by any means, but in the future, within the next 2 or 3 years, Milwaukee could be back on their feet and can recover from a loss such as Giannis Antetokounmpo. Meanwhile, Miami picks up Giannis to go alongside Bam. I mean, obviously, Pele Larson has stepped up. Bam Adebayo, still an all-star caliber player. Kasparas Jakasjonas is coming up. You know what I'm saying? Jaime Jaquez Jr. He's gotten a lot better. Nikola Jovic would still be there. Simone Fontecchio still there. Norm Powell, the all-star Norm Powell. Andrew Wiggins would still be there. Shit. Miami would be dangerous if they added Giannis to that team. They would be that Bucks team that lost in the conference finals that one year to Kawhi Leonard and them. That would be what that Heat team would be similar to. And then you got Davion Mitchell, too, who's one of the best defensive guards in the league. Forgot about him. So them doing that deal, I think the Miami Heat deal is the best one on the table. Now the Knicks are slowly pulling back from Giannis talks, despite Karl Anthony Towns being the hot name. And I'm pretty sure that they would give up Cat in a heartbeat for Giannis. New York was my favorite to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. But as you know, things change. And things run in cycles. Things change every minute of every day. That's the thing about the NBA. Opinions and minds change every second. When it comes to trades, when it comes to people they actually want. And I heard that the Minnesota Timberwolves are desperate to acquire Giannis. I've heard they've revved up the talks as soon as they heard Giannis was interested in playing with Anthony Edwards. So obviously, Randall's gone. You can't play with Randall and Giannis. One of them have to go. And Randall's contract, Randall got a big contract, so his contract to be involved. So then it's just like, are you going to keep Rudy Gobert? I would see Randall and McDaniels going before Gobert, which is shocking. I do understand. You would think Randall Gobert, but I could see a scenario where Minnesota keeps Gobert. They love Gobert. They like his rim protection, and they like him being a lob threat. So you have to put it this way. You know what I'm saying? You got to think about it that way. Yeah, it's a crazy trade deadline, y'all. And then you're not looking at the other possible players that could be traded. Because there's a lot of teams that are like one or two pieces away from being a playoff contender or a championship contender. You got to think about a team like Charlotte. Like, would they make a move to maybe upgrade at 5? You never know. You look at Atlanta. They have all that cap space. Are they looking to acquire a superstar? Because you got to think about it. The 2026 free agency, this is not the year. You understand? This is not the year to sign free agents. The free agent class of 2026 is trash. Super trash. The marquee player of that free agent class is LeBron and James Harden. And they're both old as dirt. They're old geezers. They both old enough to be my grandfather type shit. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about that side of the game too. It's like both these niggas old as hell, and they are headlining the 2026 free agency class. Shit is whack. The 2026 free agents are role players. So y'all better be lucky that this draft got so much young, intriguing talent. This is a great draft year. So that'll make up for the poor free agency. This is why teams are, you know what I'm saying? This is versus teams that, what was I thinking about? Damn, I hate when I lose my thought when I'm live. It sucks when you get put on the spot like that. But back to what I was saying, like, then you got, this is not the year to sign free agents. This is the year to clear out your cap space so that you can trade your assets for a star. That's basically where we at right now. To acquire the big stars, you got to basically trade assets in order to get them versus getting them via free agency, because a lot of these players are locked on big, massive deals. You know what I'm saying? They're on, big deals, super maxes, and max contracts. So you have to think about that too. You got to look at Chicago. I think Chicago's expiring contracts are going to be a major factor. Now, what Minnesota should go after is some of those Bulls players, because I had heard that they were interested in Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and there was another dude on that team that they liked. I forgot the other guy's name on the team that they wanted. Yeah, I forget the guy's name. God damn it. But that person is another important player on that Bulls team. It wasn't Vucevic. Yeah, because it was Dosunmu and White that they wanted. And those two players, I think, could play a big role on that Minnesota team. I think if they go after role players, I think that would be a better look, because you can tell that Wolves team misses Nickeil Alexander-Walker's production. He was another guard that could go out there and hustle and score and rebound and assist and defend the other team's best players sometimes. So you got to think about that. Yeah, Chicago's got a lot of expiring contracts and good picks. Cleveland, we already talked about Garland. I already knew Garland was going to get traded. I had a gut feeling that Garland was going to be at least on the trade block and tested to see what team would take on his contract. Then you got Dallas. The trade talks for Anthony Davis has quieted down, because I think teams are starting to see it my way, that somebody that's inconsistently in and out of the lineup honestly doesn't deserve to get traded for, in my opinion. I don't think that Anthony Davis has trade value. That's just my personal opinion. And Jason Kidd recently said that Giannis is a Maverick until he's actually traded. So him defending AD like this, I said Giannis, didn't I? My bad, y'all. But AD might not get moved. I'm leaning towards that. If you would have asked me, was he getting traded 2 weeks ago, I would have said it was a 99.99% chance. Now, I'm kind of at a 10% now. I'd be shocked if AD was traded. But I told y'all my dark horse for AD, or a place where I'm interested in AD going, is the Toronto Raptors. Then you got, of course, the Atlanta Hawks, where they could use Porzingis' contract. The Porzingis for AD deal will work just fine. Porzingis in the first round pick, then bam. It's that simple. Bring Porzingis back to the Mavericks. Denver, I don't see them making a move. Detroit, there's been speculation about, why Michael Porter Jr. has been sitting, because I guess maybe they're trying to discuss a trade for him. And, Detroit's one of the teams that's interested in Michael Porter Jr. and other players. There's been that Lauri Markkanen thing. I felt like Lauri Markkanen should not be a Piston because he makes way too much money. And he does not produce he does not produce in a winning environment. He's not a winning basketball player. He's played for bad teams his entire career. I think a person that shoots at his volume would ruin a team like the Pistons. Whereas you could get like another role player, something like a Malik Monk, something like a Dennis Schroeder, something on that level. I think that's what Detroit needs to trade for. That's why I talked about that Tobias Harris for Chris Middleton deal. I still feel like that's a really good deal, in my personal opinion. If you're trying to be cheap, and then you get an expiring contract too. But in the long run, I think Porter's the best player that Detroit can get to take some pressure off of Cade Cunningham. But would I make the move personally? No. I feel like Detroit is fine just the way that they are. And I think that one of those other guys are going to step up and help the Pistons get back to the promised land, which is bare minimum the Eastern Conference Finals, which I predict that Detroit will be in. I don't know if they make it out. I doubt that they make it out. But maybe the Pistons become the New England Patriots. Become the biggest surprise, just like they were last year. And people thought that the Pistons were a fluke. I didn't think the Pistons were a fluke. I knew that they would probably get back to the playoffs, and they would get one of those playoff spots that wouldn't require the play-in. Golden State, we already know already about what's going on there. I already talked about Brooklyn because Michael Porter Jr. is one of those big names that's on the list to get traded. Houston Rockets need a point guard bad. I tried to get D'Angelo Russell. I'm not even going to lie. I think Russell could help them. Sometimes, Russell does get too trigger happy. When you already got a guy like Reed Shepherd that's a gun-toting shooter already, but, they need a point guard bad. Like a true point. There's not a lot of those players that are available right now. And what would they trade exactly to go get one? It would have to be a 3-team deal. Indiana, I'd be shocked if they did anything. That team is doomed. Clippers, we already talked about James Harden. Would there be possibly another person moving with him? Who knows? Memphis, we still have no word on whether Ja Morant is going to play. It seems like he's in and out of the lineup. It seems like Memphis is looking to move him because they are managing him as much as they possibly can. So that he could be 100%. So do I think that Ja Morant gets traded? I'm 50-50. I'm 50-50. I was 70-30, but now I'm 50-50 on this. Could Jaren Jackson be moved? You have to look at every possibility. I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll see about that. And then Boston wants a center. So, I mean, Boston's been interested in Ivica Zubac. Could Ivica Zubac be the next domino to fall in LA after Harden's traded? Could be more than one center that Boston may be inquiring about. I don't think there are many centers on the block. I mean, you know, Boston could call up Milwaukee about Miles Turner. That would be a good pickup for them. You got what's his name? I mean, hell, Boston could call about Karl Anthony Towns. He's unhappy. Maybe they could work something out. Like, Boston's definitely one center away from doing something. Minnesota, we already talked about Giannis possibly going there. New York Knicks, they seem like they want to keep that team together despite Karl Anthony Towns not being 100% all in. I'm shocked about that. Because New York could make a dent in the market at any point. Like, who wouldn't want to play for the New York Knicks? Like, come on, stop it. OKC definitely not making any trades. Orlando, nah, I see them staying together. Philadelphia, they can get that Paul George contract on. Then, you notice something? Nobody has signed Chris Paul. It seemed like Chris Paul pretty much going to have to disappear at this point. He might have to retire. Because it's damn near the trade deadline and nobody wants you. Nobody even reached out to sign you. And you see the difference when Chris Paul was around. They were 6-21. Then when he departs, they go 16-4 after those games. So you have to think about that. So that's probably the reason why Chris Paul hasn't been signed, is just due to his ego. And he thinks that he could just run in and come in and run shit because he a vet. Phoenix, I don't know. I don't see them making a move. Philly, we already talked about. I don't think that Philly's going to make a move now. I think they're fine. Portland, yeah, I heard that Damian Lillard trying to recruit Giannis to come to Portland. That would be wild as hell if that actually happened. Because if they found a way to get Giannis and not have to, you know, not have to trade any of their important players. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that they would want to include Avdia alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. So a lot of those players like Shaden Sharp and Tamani Kamara, those caliber of players will be going out for Giannis. Definitely that Jeremy Grant contract. That Jeremy Grant contract probably going to be the first thing that them niggas get all the way the fuck up out of there. That Jeremy Grant contract is horrible. It's horrible for Portland and great for him. Sacramento, I already said that they would be the busiest at the deadline. I already see some shit. We already seen Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis get traded. Let's see what they do. San Antonio, I don't see them making the move. I don't know if Utah makes a move. I doubt it. I'd be shocked. Washington Wizards already made their move, but maybe they could go out and maybe get a number 2 for Trae Young. But I think that was everybody that I talked about. It's King Non Uncensored. NBA trade deadline. I'm out.